Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pen Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
And welcome back to the Pen Leader Podcast. Today, our show is titled Driven by Design, and I have with me Anahita Dalmia, who is the co-founder and CEO of the company Alterea. And Alterea creates interactive stories across mediums, theater, games, VR, etc., allowing participants to enter a different world in which they have an agency and impact within an unfolding story, with the goal to show them that actions matter and empowering them to build the world they want to see. She has won a number of grants, and she is a 3-time published author on achieving social impact using experiential design, including the articles Disney, Castles, Kingdoms, and No Common Man, Authority Magazine, and Thrive Global's Dreamers and Future of Games series. I'd also like to say she is also a fellow Rotarian. So welcome, Anahita.
Thank you for welcoming me.
I'm just inspired by what you're doing. I was very intrigued by the fact that the Rotarian magazine actually featured you, because there's really a lot of give back that's happening. And so I'm going to start with that first question is, what inspired you to co-found the organization? And then how did your vision for immersive storytelling evolve, especially into this leadership role?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I, like many leaders, found myself in this position because I saw a gap. I wanted it to be filled really, really badly, and there was no one willing to fill it, no one else who saw the gap. So I stepped up. I think that's, the story of a lot of leaders. I particularly have been very interested in the idea of how do I create an adventure for myself. That's conversation or a discussion with several layers that we can get into. I think an adventure is a very empowering experience. It's the idea that you socialize with other people, venture beyond your comfort zone, overcome challenges and grow in a way that's really rewarding. I found that I interacted with adventures mainly through media, so books and TV shows and movies that I used to see and read and interact with. But especially in high school, I didn't know how I myself could have an adventure. My life felt so ordinary. And I started exploring the idea of how do you create an adventure. I found that the closest things that were available in mainstream vocabulary was things like theme parks. So Disney and Universal's come to mind. I will now expand that conversation and say travel is another really, really powerful way if you decide to leverage it that way to create an adventure. But, when I was young, 18, 19 years old, I said that I wanted to create a real life experience where people could make decisions in an unfolding story or, contribute to a world. And nothing like that existed. So when I started college at the University of Southern California, I did a ton of research. I talked to people in theater. I talked to people in game design. I talked to people in the theme park industry. I, became the president of the undergrad student government special events committee that had a budget discretionary to be able to put together events. And I wanted to create something that scratched that itch for me. So that's really how I started. I started by doing 1 year long experiences, not like the entire experience being 1 year long, but the lead up to it being a year long, where I recruited a team of students, about 100 people from across disciplines. I'd have engineers and business majors and accountants and game designers and theatrical directors and actors kind of come together to create a culminative event where each person, we'd have 200 to 300 participants that came in. An example that I had is an event called Ascend, which was a mythology themed experience where students were invited to attend a godly family reunion that included Greek, Egyptian, Maya, and Chinese mythology. And when you come in, the entire experience was set up as a game. So every decision you made by interacting with actors who were essentially non-player characters, you were kind of driving the story forward and changing the alchemy of the entire room in real time. It was very empowering for a lot of people. They truly felt like they had an adventure. And I, on the flip side, also had an adventure because I pushed myself out of my comfort zone, creating that kind of experience and working with a new team in a new country, doing, new roles, putting together different formats of media in a way that was largely unexplored, but very, very satisfying and empowering. And I found that I was good at it. Like, I really loved my team. I'm in fact working with people I've known since, my freshman and sophomore year of college who I've been doing these events with. And I'm like, we can do this. Like, we can push the boundaries of what's possible in storytelling. We can create an adventure for people. We can create experiences that are transformative. And I want to be able to do that on my own terms, which is what led me into a leadership role. Mm-hmm.
Well, that leads to my next question, because we talk about immersion. I know that individuals may have an Oculus, and there's like immersion that's involved with that, and it's 3-dimensional. Is there a device? Are you using the computer, or are you using it as, are you putting a headset on?
So I work across mediums. So I have done events that are immersive in a number of different ways. A book is immersive. The minute you say, you know what, I'm pausing from my reality right now and stepping into that is immersion. Like, TV is immersive. You really tune out from the rest of the world when you do that. I really specialize in interactive. So I tend to not do that many just books or just TV. I have done virtual reality, which requires a headset. Ascend, the event that I was just describing, was live. So we like to have like a real portal, the way we like to call it, a moment of transportation. So we had like a special effect where you were entering like a portal, which was really a door to enter this other world. Agents of Influence is a video game, but you kind of need to have any lead up, like that will make people step away from what feels like their real life. And that is a principle, or the rest of their life, the normal life. And that is a principle that can be easily applied for even something as simple as date night. Like, you come in, and if the house has roses, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm now doing something special. I step away from what I had otherwise considered to be my normal mode of functioning and give this space, give this media, give this story, give this experience an opportunity to move me in different ways.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How do you balance that entertainment component with education? Because I know that you have, I understand, more than 500 schools participating to try to help students get into an immersive, educational experience. But how do you balance entertainment and education experiences to keep the users both engaged and reflective?
Absolutely. It seems like you're referring to Agents of Influence. Agents of Influence is a spy-themed media literacy video game. So students are taught how to evaluate information by checking sources and comparing different, responses to a particular prompt, and checking timestamps and looking at how that compares to the kind of decision they want to make. And the goal is really that each person starts making informed decisions, first on their video game, then online, then in real person. Is kind of the transformation process we want to be able to create over them. The guiding principle in terms of how do you blend education and fun is that fun is a prerequisite to education. It's really that simple. If you are engaged, you will invest. Whereas if you're not engaged, you're not going to invest. We need to find ways that students or whoever our audience is compelled by the content, which is why this is framed as a spy adventure. There's underground tunnels in your high school. You get to see cool animations when you're like,
I'm trying to picture my high school
now.
with underground tunnels back and like it's a spy adventure, but keep going. I love it.
So it's about creating a world, creating characters, creating a story that students can invest in. And they might not love the action of like reading 3 articles, but if they care about what they're responding to and what the outcome will be, they're much more likely to read it. So the principle is really, how do you use story in a way that the outcome matters more than the action, and interweave the action in a way that is educationally impactful, but you have to prioritize getting the kids invested first.
Mm-hmm. What I love about this, and when I read this, and again, I give you so much credit for really reaching out and trying to tie in this really cool new experience along with this educational opportunity. And what I find in underlying what you just said, that critical thinking component, which sometimes is missing, when being able to ask the questions, I'm going to say the right questions, but a critical thought out question to get to a solution, to tie it all together. I find that, just fantastic because we need more critical thinking. Would you agree?
I do fully agree. I think that people right now would really benefit from not being distrustful, but by being skeptical of not everything, but most things. And I think like the phrase trust but verify really stands out. Like I'm a big fan of do not be immediately distrustful, but have a look, because what you're consuming really shapes your ideological worldview and actions in a way that's both positive and negative. And I would love to see the world move in a direction where they're taking ownership and responsibility over their own interactions with the world, rather than blaming the media, the government, their friends and family, whoever it is, for the circumstances that we are ever in for any reason, because the most powerful effect in our world is collective action.
Mm-hmm. I would also add to that there's really a challenge to, and I just had this conversation, a challenge to make sure that you're checking the sources that you're getting your information from. It's whatever you believe, whatever direction you're going in is what you definitely want to have fact. You want to be able to really have that sustained in a way that you can check the sources. And I say this, I had a reporter who said, you always should have 3 sources to make sure that you can say for a fact that this is true. And I think it sounds like what you're doing with this game is having students have their information in front of them, but to check the fact so they can lead to a conclusion, be it their own conclusion or at least to a viable answer that has that fact checking. So let me ask you this. When you're making decisions, what is guiding your path? And I know the show is called Driven by Design. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So I think as a leader, a big guiding factor for me is, how are my actions shaping the people around me, my team? I'm actually responsible for a team and what I'm putting out in the world. I think that leaders are always responsible for some level of outcome, and they're leveraging their team to create whatever that outcome is. And you need to be like very cognizant, intentional, I think is the correct word, of what am I doing, why am I doing it, and how do I best leverage the resources I have, including my team, to move forward in that direction. And there's a lot of nuance when you kind of get into the details over there. Like for us, our guiding principles, as a team, is creating experiences that empower people. And for that, we need to create an environment where all of our teammates feel very empowered as well. So we have a lot of like little things. We start our meetings with something we call happy, scrappies, and snappies, which is one thing that makes you happy, one thing that's crappy, and like a call out, a shout out to someone in your life. And what's really nice about that is you're constantly acknowledging that other people are shaping and shifting your life in some way or the other, and also recognizing that you are shaping and shifting other people's lives, simultaneously. We do little things like compliment boxes. We'll watch, media together, go to shows, things along those lines, but also give people the opportunity to step up and step down depending on where they're at, to do whatever's important to them. Like, it's really, really important to us that you are here because you care about what we are creating, and it is moving your life forward in some way. And if someone's like, hey, I have this crazy idea, I will take responsibility for it, we love that. Mm-hmm. But also if someone's like, hey, I have other priorities right now and I need to step back a little, I think we do a really good job of like stepping up to make up for whatever gaps the other person leaves, while respecting that their seasons in life. And we want people to be here to create things that are meaningful to them and others, and they can only do that if they feel like this is where their energy is best spent.
I love the fact that and if anybody takes anything away from the show, there's so many great nuggets there, but one of them being that step up to make up, so that you can be part of a team and feel that you can step back. And I think that's really important, especially if you care and you want to demonstrate care in the team. So that was just if anybody can remember that, that's fantastic. So thank you for that. I have to ask you this too. What are you reading and what are you watching? Because you've got so much going on with the immersive experience, and then you've got the education component, working with all the different schools who are working with you. What are you reading? What are you watching?
That's funny. I recently read a book called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Don't know if you've read it. It's about a bunch of college kids that started a video game company. So very close to my reality. I read it after like the 11th person suggested it to me. I'm like, okay, if people at the airport are like, this is the book you need to read, I'll find the time to read it. It was a beautiful book. I don't know if it's going to resonate with everybody, but for leaders, I think it is a great example of starting a company, especially starting a creative company, and the seasons that it brings. There's the initial vigor and spark and moment of like complete unity that you usually get to like start something. There's, the energy that you need to constantly start putting in, like having to pay bills. People have medical issues. They start getting married, having kids. Like priorities change. You're not putting an equal amount of effort. Like resentment builds. It was just like a very real depiction of like starting a company, especially a creative company. And it was just like very validating in a strange way to know that this is the cycle. Like, this is a part of life. You need to like sit through it if you want to make something great. And it also was in some ways liberating to know that it's not your fault. I think leaders take a lot of responsibility, which has pros and cons. We typically share credit and take blame, and it can get really tiring sometimes to do that. So it's nice to be able to read something and tell yourself, you know what? That's life sometimes.
Yes.
Like, that's not my fault. That's just life sometimes. So that is one that I read a couple of weeks ago and really enjoyed. I watch a lot of anime. Two that I've recently watched is like one called One Piece and another one called Haikyuu. One Piece is a pirate adventure. If there's someone who's interested in pirate adventures, I would recommend it. A theme I really like that's going on over there is they're really passionate about the topic of camaraderie. And I think camaraderie is like a very underrated word in the business world. I really love the concept that you will step up to support the people who are on your team while you're working towards a common goal. Like, I think that's really beautiful and very beautifully depicted in that one. And Haikyuu is a sports anime, similar themes of like teamwork and growth happening over there. But I find myself attracted to a lot of media where people are striving to do more and be more.
Excellent. Well, those are great. There's still leadership, really, components in both the anime that you just mentioned, and of course, the book is also in leading and could be a great for those that are entrepreneurs in the creative space. I think, that's great. So I can't thank you enough for the time and answering questions and really this talking about an immersive experience and how it can help better not only those in the educational side, but also in an entrepreneurship side. So thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And thank you for our leaders who are listening and for those who are sharing the show. We appreciate you. We also appreciate our sponsor, Jody Zink. Team eXp Realty has more than 30 years of experience led by Jody. And she says, because where your life happens matters. So we appreciate their sponsorship. And we also hope that you'll pick up the Pin Leader Path, identify, engage, and develop effective human and AI leadership for your organizational culture, as it rolled out a few weeks ago and it hit number 1 for HR and personnel management on Amazon. So we're really excited about that. And of course, until next time.
The Pin Leader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Mays & Associates Ltd, creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pin Leader podcast and share with others.